What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Clinic Growth Secrets. This is your host, Jeff EK. I'm actually bringing you guys a special guest episode today, a gentleman that I've been looking forward to having on the show for quite some time. He's going to share not only his journey in chiropractic, but how he continues to reinvent himself and his businesses so that he can stay top of mind and also top of his game in terms of revenue and business growth. So you're not only going to get some actionable practice insights today, but also learning from a legend who's again reinvented himself over and over to make sure that he continues to stay on top of his game. So before we get into the goods, as you guys know, if you're a constant listener, you know that we have this thing that we call the fee. The fee is very simple. Is we don't ask you for monetary donations. I'm not going to ask you to hit my Venmo account or send me some cash. Although if you want to support the show that way, feel free. But we won't ask for it. All we do ask is if you get value from the show, we ask you to pay it forward. Okay. That means that you need to send the show to someone that you know, like, and trust, who you believe will also get value from today's content. Okay. We grow organically by word of mouth. We don't fill your ears full of bullshit that we don't use or listen just so we can run ads. We don't do any of that on here. Okay. So in return, we ask that you pay the fee, share the show forward. That's how we grow. Okay. Now, today, I am with Dr. Mike Reid. Dr. Mike, good to have you, sir.
Hey, I'm excited to be here with you, Jeff. So thank you for having me.
Excited to have you, brother. You've done a lot of good stuff in your career, and I think this is going to be a very valuable episode for a lot of people tuning in. So, I want to start us, as I do with a lot of my guests, there's always a backstory. Now, we won't linger too long on the backstory, but one of the things that I found that most impressive about you, Dr. Mike, is obviously, you went from a fresh chiropractic graduate back in 92, 33 years ago, and you at the time had built one of the most successful $1 million practices. You guys were seeing over 1,000 people a week. So I want to go back to that time. What do you feel like are some of the most pivotal moments that separated you from the other 90 to 95% of practitioners who struggle financially? Like, what was it early on that you had?
So, and that's such a poignant question, Jeff, because think of a stool, three legs. There's three critical foundational pillars that every successful chiropractor needs. Number one, I believe it's philosophy. It's not just philosophy of chiropractic, but philosophy mindset of being an entrepreneur and being a businessman, because we are business. We're a fee for service. I don't care what you say. Number two is being great with your hands. So I was very fortunate to have an intern that started teaching me in my very first year. Fast forward through my second, third, fourth year, I went to the Toronto campus. I had an amazing doctor, Dr. Keith Ennis at the time, who taught us hands-on MPI style. And the third component was being coached. So I had the legend, the late Dr. John Whitney, who taught me the business of building a practice. And now, ironically, I've been in coaching longer than I've been a chiropractor. I started my second year, and I drank from the Kool-Aid, and I would go and learn from the best. So, and I still do it today. I'm actually in four and starting a fifth mastermind that I go to and learn from. So I'm always learning. But that gave me, I think, the leg up to be successful in practice. Now, I came from a business background in the dairy business with my father. We built a multi-million-dollar dairy business. So I understand customer service. I understood about being the best, constant ever and improvement. And I applied that to my business. I was seeing personally 700 a week. I had my ex-wife, who's also a chiropractor. We built her up to 300. So we were cranking 1,000 a week, all cash, in a 2,000 square foot practice in Ottawa, Ontario. Sold it in 2012. Make a long story short, we went down to Turks and Caicos. We set up a practice there. We ended up separating and divorcing at the time, but I met this amazing doctor, Dr. Shreen, and she invited me from Canada to the United States. That's where I'm living now in Richmond, Virginia, and we have built an amazing practice. I mean, talk about a practice that is like the ultimate well-oiled machine. And personally, she sees 500 a week by herself. So it's a practice that's based in business skills, customer service, philosophy. And I basically am the coach running it, training it. I don't adjust anymore. I haven't since 14, when I more or less retired from chiropractic. But that's allowed me to branch out and run all of our businesses.
And so like when somebody's listening to this, they might be thinking like, man, like how is it feasible to, not like kill yourself, right? Because I talk to a lot of people that are in that range of, maybe they're seeing 150, 250 people a week, possibly maybe even 300, and they're already like feeling extremely burnt out. Is this an equation of willpower and grit as well as coaching and stuff like that? Or how did you like not kill yourself seeing that kind of volume for as long as you did?
Well, it comes down to your foundation. So it's getting up at ass crack of dawn, it's exercising, it's proper nutrition, it's minerals, vitamins. I mean, I'm 60 now, and I'm still consider myself in probably the best shape of my life, just because I've stayed to, those rituals of keeping my body and my mind in shape. I still read 30 minutes per day. So when doctors say, how do you do that? My answer is, how can you not? Because if you are adjusting a family member, and I pose this question at my seminars, how long does it take you to adjust your wife or your kids? And everyone says, well, just a minute. I said, so why are your patients any different? I never get an answer, right? So it's not about the time you spend with the patient. It's about the skill of and the power of the adjustment you can deliver in that 1 or 2 minutes with your patients. What's interesting, I did a seminar years ago in the UK, and I adjusted a bunch of doctors, and we timed it. I said, okay, I adjusted a bunch of doctors. I said, how much time did I spend with you? Their answer, Jeff, was twice the actual time I spent with them. So they thought 5 minutes, and it was like 2.5 minutes per doctor, and it seemed like an eternity. So it's not about the quality of time, it's about the quality of adjustment. And if you set your system up where you can step open concept table to table, you can see 25, 30 people an hour easily. And that's how Shireen is so successful in her practice. But at the same time, we have an exam doctor that's doing exams. So that really cuts down her time. So she does what she does best, and that's just pure adjusting.
Brilliant. And one thing you mentioned there, which I think is critical, and I'm seeing more and more of it in successful practices, is the concept of the open adjusting room. I think a lot of people have not yet adopted that, right? Especially maybe if they're getting started.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me about the upside potential when you have that, not only from an efficiency standpoint, but also like a retention and kind of social proof standpoint, right?
Well, consider when you're in a closed room, you have no idea what's going on outside of those four walls. And when you look at sexual harassment cases, there have been no sexual harassment cases in an open concept. So one, you're at high risk by being in a closed room. I just heard my wife was telling me there was two doctors this last year that got nailed for sexual harassment of a patient. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But when you're an open concept, the way we do it, people are prepaid, pre-booked. So they come in, they lay down, they're face down. Shireen's right there. She adjusts, moves on to the next person right beside it, adjusts. So the efficiency is a 200% increase. You're actually able to take 3 steps and move to your next patient. Now, we have computers with x-rays and or scans and everything that she can see. She can make her notes, she can talk to a patient. But the benefit with this, now you're on stage, so you're talking and you're talking your tick, you're educating that patient on the table, the other person is hearing it, and we have a half wall. It's about maybe 3.5 4 feet tall, and on the other side is our hot seat system. So you're educating the whole auditorium of patients there, and she'll have 20 people in the room, and she's a very vivacious, outgoing, energetic woman that's can educate and have fun at the same time, and people love her. So not only is she giving great care, but she's also educating the room en masse.
Very smart. And I think that there requires like a level of like the leader in the practice, such as, you're just describing how she operates with her patients and how she's very energetic focused and how she's kind of like a magnetic character. I think that number one, I think that's extremely important for retention, word of mouth business, that kind of stuff. But I'm sure you've run into this too. Like when you went to sell your practice, right? You saw these sold in 2012. I think a lot of people they find themselves at the end of the road with nowhere to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like they have this, decent size office, maybe seeing as many as 500 people a week, but they can't do anything in terms of sale because it's totally a personality driven practice.
It
So
can
like,
be, yes.
let me ask you this. Like, I know you started building it up in 92 for about 20 years. You had the business. How were you thinking about your exit strategy in the early years? Maybe you weren't at all. That's also a fair answer. But how were you making sure that you had the freedom of choice when 2012 came around and you wanted to make that transition?
Well, it was very difficult because most doctors that came to my practice would shadow me and pretty well walk away like there's no way I can do this. And but the possibility is endless because I had clients from around the world, UK, Canada, the United States, Australia, and I showed them how to double, triple their numbers just by having either open concept or T-bar and how to build, a high volume practice. So I ended up selling it to my associate. He worked with me for a few years. I trained him, taught him how to be a better adjuster, and he eventually bought it from me. But at a high volume practice that was worth, seven figures, very difficult to sell. You're absolutely right. So now our practice that we have is designed for four doctors. We have double T-bar systems. And what we're doing, we have our two of our boys who are going to chiropractic college. We have an associate. We have another doctor who's going to be joining us next week. So it's designed for a legacy now. So we can clout the equity. There's a way to do that, but we're still going to own the practice as we move into our other businesses.
I love that. It sounds like there's in the current model you have right now, it's designed by choice. It's intentionally designed to have redundancy in providers.
Every business should be that way.
100%, 100%.
Life by design, right?
Life by design. I always tell my business partner, because this has been one of our like many business owners, it's been one of our challenges kind of coming up, right? If I ever write a book on building a business, I'll write a chapter called The Race to Redundancy. Because like there's a weird phase where you have, like you talked about that stool, right? Where you
Mm-hmm.
have all the legs in the stool and they're all filled technically. But if one leg breaks or gets a little bit of like splinters in it, then the stool is still freaking wobbly. So one of the things that I've seen happen, and maybe you can talk a little bit and share some wisdom on it. There's kind of like this black hole level for practitioners. Okay, let me describe this for you. Okay. They are, let's say there's a practitioner, they're making about $50,000, $60,000 a month, and they're able to keep 30%. Let's say they're keeping $20,000 a month, right? A lot of people, they get stuck at that revenue. I call it like the black hole of revenue. And it might not be
Mm-hmm.
50, 60 grand, whatever it is. I'm using that as an example. Okay. But they don't have the capacity to scale because they're already so busy. Okay. But they're almost like they have a few options. They can either option A, stay at the same revenue for life. They can option B, hire an associate, which many people are scared to do because it's a bigger upside expense, right? And then there's the third option where you could just try to like work yourself into burnout, which inevitably might destroy the whole business. So like how does someone ration when they're at that space right here?
Well, consider that if you have a practice, most doctors might work 30, maybe 35 hours per week. You shouldn't have to work more than that, but you've got that space that's wide open. And ideally, you can design a practice so you have actually, think about this, uh, two or even three T-bar areas open. So you can have two, three practitioners adjusting at the same time. If your patients are prepaid, pre-booked, your team is just going to be doing this high and by, and you can shuttle people in. So the capacity to serve more is there. But when it comes to associates, you have to have what I call an SOP, a scalable operating process or system, SOS. And what I mean by that, technique, procedures, scripting has to be identical. I hate to use the word McDonaldized, but I think you get it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Every system has to be the same. So one of the keys to scaling it is creating a scalable operating system. So when a person comes in, my team knows exactly how to greet them. Our checkout script from exam is exactly as I have tested it over the last 30 years. The checkout script from the front desk is designed so that our promotions are in our procedures and our procedures are in our promotions so that people leave with a family gift certificate. They come back on day two. We don't adjust them. We do a doctor's report. So the patients are going to get the big idea because they don't know what chiropractic is. And then they get the report of findings, and then they're going to get their first adjustment. So it's systematized so that, our conversions to care are 86%. And we're talking a corrective care program that's $2,900, $2,900. So, and at the back end, we have a system to improve our patient visit average, which is wellness care. So when you have that ability to scale it, because the key to building a practice is more new ones, better conversions, better retention, and then the back end upsell, which might be point of sales or wellness care plans or profit maximizers. Like in our practice, we have spinal decompression as another arrow in our quiver when you get those chronic disc issues, or if you get, the neuropathies that you can't put any rotation, the chiropractic's not working, we throw them on the decomp. And that's a higher profit ticket. So when doctors hit that black hole, ask yourself, how do I scale? How can I be more productive with my square footage? the hours I'm not there, or even expanding it so you can have two T-bars going side by side? How can I increase my income per visit by having profit maximizers or even other point of sales? So I believe that every chiropractor can do at least 400 or 500 a week without burning out. And if you do it with like a pneumatic drop system, less body drops and things like that to preserve your body, you can easily do 1.2, 1.4 million on your own.
Yeah.
And I
I,
know, I know people are going to go, oh my gosh, like, how do you do that? Well, there's a system there, and I prove it time and time again. I have clients that I've known for 20 years. They introduced me to their children as the guy that helped buy the cottage. I mean, so what I say to people, Jeff, is don't play small in life. You weren't put on this planet to play small. You're meant to play big, especially in chiropractic, because our profession needs people who are going to be getting out there and surfing more instead of surfing Netflix for 4 hours a night. You know what I'm saying?
So true. Yeah, so true. And the thing is we're still losing the game, man. You know, like the pharmaceutical MD space. I mean, they're all nothing against it, but they're still ahead of it, the game. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
still ahead of us. We're catching up, but it's like you got to put yourself
totally.
out there. And another thing I see, because you mentioned like SOPs having the repeatable processes, right? I mean, so you know what the front desk is going to say in and out, doesn't matter who's in the seat, that they're just going to run the same play. I think that the concept of SOP. So I'm an industrial engineer by trade. So SOPs like are like my home base of life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But for a lot of people, they're not. And maybe even so on the listeners of this show we have, right? So what happens though is like people will have, front desk, right? And they have some SOPs. But the problem is that the SOPs are not nearly as documented and kind of like, I'll say it like added in technology as they should be. So
Mm-hmm.
although there's a standard way of doing it, when Kathy at the front desk decides to go away, the owner then has to jump back in and retrain, right? So, what are some of the methodologies that you've seen to where it's like, okay, I did have the staff turnover, but I can hire someone and I can get them up to speed without absorbing all of my personal time again?
So there's a great book out there people should read called Rocket Fuel. And Rocket Fuel teaches you how to get what we call an integrator or an office manager, for example. So we have playbooks, scripts, we have KPIs, we have everything is systematized. So if we have a system that runs that we can put a person into, not the other way around. So it's not like, oh, who's going to run the system? No, we have a system that automatically runs. Everyone's cross trained. So someone quits, someone's sick, somebody else can fill in. And if we have to replace anybody, I have an office manager that can train that person. Now, I do go into practice. I meet with her 1 hour a week. I train my staff 1 hour. I train my associate 1 hour. I meet with Dr. Shreen for 1 hour. And I help with our reports, doctor's reports, and care plans 2 hours a week. So I'm there really 6 hours per week, and that whole system runs, and it does 7 figures a month. So this is how, sorry, 6 figures a month. This is how you can actually build, an incredible business by having it systematized and running on its own. So the idea is that you should be able to scale your business so you can step away for 30 days and that thing still runs tickety boo.
Yeah, that's well said. It's like kind of building off some of the principles in E-Myth, but just kind of a deeper
Yeah,
level of it, right?
right.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, and one of the things like so data, very centric point of your career from what I found in my studies of you, Dr. Mike. And forgive me if you can hear the air show. There's currently a massive air show going on here in Milwaukee. Actually setting up some car alarms, believe it or not, by those planes flying by. But you wrote something, Mike. It was called 101 split tests of the $1 million practice. Now this might be bringing back some old
Yeah,
stuff for
I'm
you.
just I'm just actually doing finishing version 2. So
Oh,
the
okay.
doctors will be able to download that. It's like $47, but it's a game changer for practices. Yeah.
And it seems like what it is. It's like it's a lot of different data driven methodologies of using systems and stuff like that. So I
Right.
guess like I'd be curious. Like number one, how did you come up with that? And number two, what is the primary objective of a piece like that?
So I was a researcher in my younger years in university. So I used to look at lipolysis and cardiac myocytes. We used to run Krebs cycles and it was looking for diabetes and burning of fat. And in that, you would run multiple split tests, changing different variables on your pipettes and things like that, and looking at different quantifications and how it had an end result. So, for example, when we had COVID, we couldn't have people in groups, and that's how we do a group doctor's report. We educate everybody en masse. Well, our conversions tanked. And as soon as we're able to have people in groups again, our conversions came up. So we know if you have patients pay per visit every time they come in, your PVA, your patient average is anywhere from 12 to 18. But
Yep.
if you have people commit to a care plan and you're doing corrective care, measuring objective criteria like structural change, neurological changes, symptomatic changes, your PVA can actually increase fourfold. Now that's massive. So think about that. I have patients to a doctor's report, my conversions double. I then have people on a care plan. I then increase it fourfold. So now your PVA just went like this. Instead of doctors having this revolving door chasing after new patients that are with you just for pain relief. Well, the irony here and the incongruency is that you and I, Jeff, get adjusted once a week on average. I get adjusted once, sometimes twice a week, and I will for the rest of my life. So I've had thousands of adjustments. So I pose that question to people at seminars: why shouldn't your patients? And you hear crickets because it's not about insurance. Insurance is only designed to introduce people to chiropractic. It's never designed to give them the proper care. And if people understood the value of chiropractic, if they knew the long-term benefits, you and I would never give it up. Not for $1 million. I'll take $1 million bill and I'll shake it at a seminar. Say, how many people are ready to take $1 million and never get adjusted again? I've never had one taker, not one, because you and I understand the value of it. So now we have to sort of transpose that understanding of the value of chiropractic people, hence why the doctor's report is critical. Tony Robbins taught me something years ago. He basically said, here's a teeter-totter, right? And he said, on this side, you have the emotional reason and the logical reason to buy now. People make decisions based on emotions and logic. And over here was a dominant reason not to buy. He says the emotional logical reason has to be greater than the dominant reason not to buy. So how do you change that? You come back to understanding what that patient's primary value is. So it's the one thing that people want to get back to enjoying their health, because they can't do it right now because of their back pain or headaches or migraines. If you can pull that out of a patient, you know what? They'll beg, borrow, steal, trade their first child for chiropractic. They really will. I remember we had a guy that he was on disability and he went and got a loan. It's like that's how much he valued chiropractic, because he understood how it's going to change his life. So when you can sort of transmit that to a patient, you can make a transformational change in that person to understand, I need chiropractic. So we don't, last night, I got a high five. I sold almost 14,000 in care plans last night in 1 hour. So I had 4 one-time payments. And, it's like prepaid for the 6 month or 6 month programs that we do. Then we do wellness plan after that. So I got people prepaid, pre-booked. Everyone was excited to get adjusted. They're back for their second adjustment today. It's possible to do that. And that's where we can build a volume practice where people pay, stay, and refer and get great results. We don't compromise on results.
100%, man. I was just talking, first of all, brilliant. And I was just doing a video yesterday on a YouTube, and I was thinking like, okay, what are the massive revenue drivers? And it's new ones, like you mentioned, conversion, and then having world-class experience throughout, right? And I think on the conversion side, you mentioned something that's worth going into. A lot of people suffer with their conversions because I think they're trying to change someone's entire belief system of the world too soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're selling like, and I see this more so in people that are doing like extremely long 12, 18-month care plans up front, which is nothing wrong with that if you can close it, right? But the patients, like their current, like, what would it be? So level of sophistication towards the profession and how they view it is going to be different on the day they say yes to the day they go to a maintenance program, right? So what happens is a lot of people try to just sell on like, you're going to be here for life. You're going to be here for life. And while that may be true, I think sometimes they harp too much on that. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you've seen in your own business and with your coaching clients?
Here's what I've discovered. And when I had coached clients for the last 33 years, I always ask them if they leave my coaching program, which happens. what's the number one thing that you got from me that made a massive change in your practice? Everybody, Jeff, says the same thing, the doctor's report. So the doctor's report, because remember, people are very myopic. They come in and they have this idea that chiropractic is one adjustment for back pain. I mean, some
That's
of our
it.
associates have promoted that, right?
Yep.
So, but if they understood that the chiropractic really frees up the brain-body communication, allows the body's innate intelligence to express itself at 100%, and that's truly what health is all about. When they understand that, and you can actually quantitatively show them, here you are. So I love the CLA substation, so I can measure core score, and then we use that same blood pressure analogy. People get it. We'll show pre and post X-rays, and we'll actually take cervical curve and show that reverse curve, and we use like a biophysics technique with hand adjustments, so we can actually make those structural changes, and we can actually show pre and post X-rays and show people not only will you functionally and neurologically be better, but you're symptomatically going to be better. And then, of course, your lifestyle is going to change. So I'll use a dimmer switch analogy. So I get on their level. I use analogous examples that get them to understand the benefit of chiropractic. Simple terms, and after a 30-minute doctor's report, they're like sold. Now, that's to get them started on a care plan, but we also tick chiropractic all the way through those next 44 adjustments in that 6 months so that they understand it's more than. So we're talking about the benefits. We're talking about how, the healthiest people on the planet are in regular chiropractic care, da, 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 da. But there's a drip sequence that we also continually educate our patients. But we also have an online portal. So we have a wellness portal. They QR code it and they go in and they're exercising with Dr. Shreen. They're getting paleo exercise and nutrition. We also have a functional nutritionist who's virtual. They can do a discovery call with her, do a blood lab. They can do, all sorts of stuff to improve their cellular health. So we tell them we're going to take them on a journey from their current position to one of wellness. And hence, I mentioned to you that, we're moving into regen. That's our next sort of venture, building a regen center, because even though chiropractic is wonderful, we can actually take it one step further with, we call it our four-dimensional model of health with exercise, nutrition, and cellular regeneration. And that's the future of healthcare. So I
Cool.
think for us to beat it as chiropractic, you're right, it's been an uphill battle because I've been in this for 30 years and it hasn't changed a hell of a lot. I think the next way to go is to start adopting or having an associated regen center with your practice, because medicine has dropped the ball. And the truth on big pharma, the truth on vaccines is coming out very shortly. And I hate to be an MD because everything's going to implode. And I think people are going to be running towards alternative care. And if you're a chiropractor, naturopath, I think you're going to see your practice explode. But if you have that regen component at the back end, whether it's, functional nutrition, IV therapy, or something like that, bioidentical hormones, I think that's the future of where healthcare is really going to go with a foundation of chiropractic. But that's my personal opinion, right? You
Sure.
might not believe in that, but I've been in this game long enough to know where the future is going.
I mean, I think you're right, man. I think you're right. I think it's interesting because in the same vein, it's like, if you look at like education entirely about these massive universities that have these huge overheads, and then so many people are deciding to go to school on YouTube and like, dude, like I know a kid right now who's 20 years old. He went to a school close to mine. He's 20 years old. He lives in Miami. He profits 300 grand a month take home, never went to college once, right? So it's like these universities could have that same idea. But nevertheless, we'll see if our predictions play out. One thing I want to touch on too is the retention, because you've hit on it a few different times. And I think it relates back to sales. So I always think about in terms of patient attraction and then also patient retention, very similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When somebody comes in, they might have the physiological safety needs, possibly even the love and belonging needs not being met. They're in pain.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do what they
Mm-hmm.
want. They can't perform at work, right? They may just have a hard time breathing. They may have a hard time even sleeping, right? So
Right.
we use sale to apply to the lower level of the hierarchy. But then as a retention model, we build them up. We go to the self-esteem, we go to the self-actualization. That's why a lot of docs that we work with that they'll do in terms of a second money, third money conversion, they'll start introducing things like you mentioned, functional nutrition or HRV. They'll start tracking HRV and use that as a North Star for the patient's
Mm-hmm.
health, right?
Yeah.
So I love what you shared on that, because I think that what you're doing is you're like, hey, like we're going to keep it simple when we sign you up because we know where you're at and we need to meet you where you're at. But over the course of your journey, we're going to change your paradigm of health entirely with all of these different objective things. And to your point earlier, a lot of those become additional profit centers that the patient doesn't know they need, but will soon discover that they can get a lot of value from.
Well, in marketing, we call it the value ladder, right? So, for example, when we advertise a $97 new patient exam, valued at $397. So I've got my lab here; he's getting needy,
All
and
good.
what we do is we build them up to the next level, which is care, and then we have functional nutrition. So we diversify functional nutrition, spinal decompression. Now, those are higher end programs. Supplement sales, we have our own supplement line, which we have in practice. So we have point of sales. And then up the value ladder, they go to the next step, which is functional nutrition, which can run anywhere from 6,000 to 12,000 to $24,000. So this is Cooper.
What's
He's
up,
just being a
Cooper?
pain in the ass.
Hey, what's good, Cooper?
Hey,
No, he's
Cooper.
cool. He's cool, man. He looks like he's in good shape, that man right
Oh
there.
yeah.
Uh,
Farmer's dog. Farmer's dog. I got tired of cooking for him, so I ran out of time.
That's fair. Yeah, that's
Come
fair.
on,
But no,
down, buddy. Down.
that's genius though. That's genius. I love that for sure. And so as we kind of near the end here, we were talking before we started hitting record today, and Dr. Mike, you were saying not only are you part of, these mastermind groups, four currently, soon to be five, trying to just stay ahead of the game. How are you looking ahead in addition to what you've already discussed about, where healthcare, brick and mortar is going, introducing these different services? How are you seeing two things, telemedicine and then ultimately AI, artificial intelligence, kind of changing the way that patients experience healthcare? Like, how are you seeing that? What's your predictions for the future in those two silos?
Well, first of all, when you talk about telemedicine, I think I mentioned regen. I think that's the future, but inside of that regen, with our associated podcasts or online stores, we have our own product line, is telehealth is going to be huge. So we're building that into the regen so people can actually get on a Zoom call with one of our practitioners, fill out, the forms, and even do blood tests remotely. I have a functional cardiologist, Jack Wolfson, who's very popular. And, I did my blood test with him, but we did it remotely. I had a phlebotomist come here, drew the blood through I'm trying to remember the name of the company that we used, but Vibrant America, sorry, Vibrant Health. And then he got online with me and went through my results. I do my blood test every year, so it's part of my biohack. But he made $2,500 for a 1 hour call. So that's where telehealth is going. And regarding AI, AI is going to transform absolutely everything. So, and I'm going to predict if you are not fully immersed in AI, because one of the digital marketing groups I belong to has swung this year to pretty well 100% AI, because it's transforming lead generation, it's transforming sales. We have an automated AI agent inside of our CRM, which is Go High Level, called Synthflow. And Synthflow does an SMS text and a voice call. So when people see our video ads and they leave name, email, phone number, we get that voice call that goes right away, because I can't get those leads that fast. People can pre-book, but we have an automated 10 that does that. And now we're using like Search Atlas for our Google effects for our website. And I was just doing the metrics this morning because I was on an AI call just before this. A 210% increase in our SEO efforts, because we're using Search Atlas, which is one of the AI agents that we're using. So I have about 10 tools. I was actually developing a report on AI, but I have about 10 tools that I'm using right now for AI that's transforming our practice. Our practice is growing so much. Our new patient flow is up this last 2 months by about 210%. I can't find enough doctors at this point. So we have an associate that's getting busy. That's my biggest concern. If you know how to run a practice, if you know AI, if you know customer service, you're good with your hands, and you can have what I call TMD, total market dominance. So people are searching in your area and you are ranked one, two, or three, and you have to be one, two, or three in the ranking, or you're obsolete, because 95% are going to choose position one. There's no medal for fourth place. Let's put it that way. It's
Right.
Olympics, right?
Right.
So we make sure that when people see our website, everything, it's dominating through Google search, through Facebook, through TikTok, YouTube, and everything else.
Yeah, that's awesome,
And that's
man.
all AI. That's all AI driven, like Opus.Pro that we use for our videos, right? for reels and
Yeah,
shorts.
for cutting up shorts and stuff.
Um,
Yep, I've used that one too.
yeah, like it's unbelievable, and it's only getting better. I mean, they have you can use like HeyGen now. You just put your picture in there, a little bit of text, and it'll actually create a video of me talking like this, and it's AI driven, and it looks real. So now I don't have to spend my weekends going and filming videos and slicing those up
Yeah, that's so cool,
and
man.
editing them and adding captions and stuff. So yeah, it's really neat what you can do. So that's going to change it. I think telemedicine is going to be a part of, but I think what you're going to see, and you're starting to see this now, um Health Experts Alliance group that I belong to, half the room are MDs, and they're all getting away from insurance, getting out of hospitals. My MD buddy who's coming in the region with me, he's done. He's sick and tired of the bureaucracy, the insurance. He's excited to do what we do. He saw us in practice. He goes, should have been a chiropractor.
Yeah, dude, for
So
real. They're finally coming out of the woodworks to join us. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, the future is bright. I think the future is bright for chiropractic, but I think the chiropractors got to get out of their own way, realize the possibility that they're born for greatness. You can't have an amazing practice. You can triple your current numbers. That's what I typically see with my clients. They get training with me and they triple their numbers. They start, they can afford the cottage, the cars, the nice homes, the retirement,
Yeah, that's
paying off their
awesome.
student loans. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just golden nuggets there. Even some tactical AI tools that Dr. Mike's using in his business. Well, absolute pleasure to be with you here today, sir. And if for anyone that's listening, if they want to check more about your work, or they want to get in contact with you, what's the best place for them to find you, sir?
So our coaching program is chiropractic-masters.com. So they can go to www.chiropractic-masters.com. And there they can buy, the products. Most doctors can get my book from there, and they can get on Jetpack. Jetpack is a self-learning program that they just go and learn. And you do have to qualify for that because you have to be making X amount of dollars to actually work with me at a higher level. But we also have the digital marketing agency, and that's prosperity10x.net. So prosperity, the number 10x.net. And that's our digital marketing components. We have doctors say, hey, Mike, I know what I'm doing. Just help me drive more traffic through Google, through YouTube, through Facebook. Can you update my website? So I have a whole team that actually works with me. I meet with them twice a week, and we help, doctors improve their new patient attraction. And then they get Jetpack with that, which is self-taught, and they can learn the procedures day one, day two, doctor's report, and all that sort of stuff.
Very cool. Guys, we'll make sure to link those down in the show notes, whether you're on audio here on podcasts or you're checking it out on YouTube. Check out those links below if you want to connect more with Dr. Mike and his work. Certainly has a wealth of knowledge, as you guys have learned in the short duration of time we've been on the show today. So, Dr. Mike, man, I appreciate you being here. If you guys got value, you know what to do. Share the show, pay the fee, and in return, we will not fill your ears full of garbage. We'll only bring you value week over week. Until the next one, guys, as always, you guys take care and we'll chat soon.